So happy Monday to everybody that is an orange and blue fan. The Mets coming off a fantastic weekend, taking all three games against the Toronto Blue Jays in a home opening series sweep over Toronto. Fantastic time out there. If you were at Citi Field, then you probably had a good time like I did. It was so electric there. Opening day on Friday. Pete Alonso kicking things off with that home run in the first inning. The Mets getting a walk-off victory on Francisco Lindor's sac fly on Saturday, and then the team just barely outlasting the Jays on Sunday. Edwin Diaz shutting the door on Vladdy Jr., who we now know will not be a future New York Met, but that's okay because right now things are going very well in Queens. What's up, guys? Tony Metro here. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and also like this video so I can keep doing pre-game, pre-series, post-game, post-series, all those kinds of things here for you guys, and I really enjoyed doing it. And hopefully I got a chance to meet some of you at Citi Field this weekend or on the subway, the 7 line, where I put down a lot of my flyers, and hopefully that's maybe how you guys found me. So again, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we can continue the chat going on. So today the Mets welcome in the Miami Marlins for a 3-game series. It's already the second time the Mets will face their National League East opponent. As you hear my boy Mookie Wilson over here, a little irritated. Something's going on outside, but hopefully he'll continue. Up. Thank you. Come here. There we go. Right? See, he's a good boy. So the Mets welcome in the Marlins, and hopefully they can build on what they've been doing here over these first 9 games of the season. Obviously, we know they just played the Marlins last series before this, and they barely squeaked 2 out of 3 down there at Home Depot Park in Miami. So we'll see if they can be a little bit more tight here this week at Citi Field. So let's preview the series. First of all, we're going to begin with today's starting pitching matchup, and that is Kodai Senga versus Valente Belotso. Belotso is someone who I would have guessed is coming from Italy, but no, actually is of Mexican heritage. So pretty interesting background. We'll get to him in a bit, but let's begin with Kodai Senga. His last time out, it was his first start of the season against the Marlins. 5 innings pitched, 4 runs, only 2 of them earned. His defense betraying him in that one. It was, of course, the game where Francisco Lindor had 2 errors. Only the 4th time in his career he's had a 2-error game, and it cost him in the 5th inning. 3 hits, 1 walk, but struck out 8 guys. And overall, I thought Senga looked pretty good in that game. His stuff looked very nasty. Those 8 strikeouts, 7 of them coming via the ghost fork. So that was great to see. It was a pitch he didn't really throw a lot during Grapefruit League action. We know that Senga didn't throw a whole lot of innings in spring training this year. So it was great to see Senga go out there and look pretty strong. And not only that, but to use the ghost fork as effectively as he did. We know that he's on a pitch count limit. He's basically going only around 75 pitches, give or take 5 for the first few starts throughout the year. And last week he did a great job doing that. And hopefully he'll be able to build on that one. And if his defense doesn't let him down like they did in his last start, he might even be able to go a full 6 innings in this one. So let's take a look. This is the Marlins lineup for this afternoon. Pretty similar to what we saw last week down in Miami. Xavier Edwards leading off. He is dangerous. This guy can get on base any which way possible, and he's got the speed to hurt you with. So hopefully none of that tonight. 3 infield singles last week against the Mets in the finale. 1 for 7 though, only against Kodai Senga. So good news there. Batting second, Kyle Stowers. He's 1 for 3. He actually had the 2-run homer against Senga in the first inning of that start last week. Otto Lopez hits third. He's 0 for 2. He hurt the Mets in the very beginning of that series, but really didn't do a whole lot after that. Then Matt Mervis, someone that I don't believe the Mets actually faced last week at any of the 3 games. He is 0 for 4 with a walk in 5 plate appearances against Kodai Senga. Batting fifth is Eric Wagman. He had a home run in the second game of that series, but did not do a whole lot else. And overall, no career plate appearances against Senga. Griffin Conine bats sixth. He is 0 for 2 in his career against Senga. Dane Myers, 0 for 2 as well. Graham Pauley, third baseman, he actually looks like he's going to be a future Met killer. I can just tell. There's something about him. I can tell with the Marlins players who's going to be a career Met killer, and I think Graham Pauley, that name is perfect. We're going to be talking about him years from now. Hopefully, it won't affect us too much, but I think there's something about this guy. He's cut out to kill the Mets for the rest of his Marlins career. He's 1 for 2 against Senga, 2 RBIs and a double in that finale against the Mets. And then Nick Fortes is 0 for 4. He rounds out the Marlins lineup. But speaking of Mets killers, that's a guy that's always been in the middle of things. Career walk-off home run against the Mets in 2022 back at Home Depot Park. What to watch for with Kodai Senga? Can he give the Mets some length? The Mets starting pitching rotation has been fantastic. Their bullpen's been great. You put it all together, their staff ERA is the best in Major League Baseball. I mean, below 2 earned runs per game. It's just been out of this world. You couldn't ask for anything better. But if there's one thing that you could complain about for the Mets so far early in this year, as far as the pitchers, it's that the rotation is not going very deep into games. So Senga only went 5 innings last game. He obviously was hurt by his defense with Lindor making those 2 errors. Where is he at? Is he able to go longer than that? Is it going to be completely dependent on that pitch count that he's on right now? Or would the Mets give him a little wiggle room and let him go a little bit deeper into this game to try to save the bullpen, which is already very early being overtaxed? Other than that, how's that ghost fork working? I mean, it was fantastic. His first start against the Marlins. I want to see him continue to use that. Does he have the ability to continue using that pitch, or are the Marlins going to catch on? So it would be really interesting to see how he mixes his pitches and puts it all together here against the Marlins a second time in less than 1 week against them. Then, meanwhile, going up against him, his counterpart for the night for the Marlins on the hill is Valente Belozzo, who, again, I really thought was a guy from Italy, but apparently he's from Mexico. So the Marlins acquired him in 2024. Non-prospect, but solid start to his career. 24 years old, debuted in 2024. 13 starts, a 3.67 ERA. He had 38 earned runs over 68 and 2/3 innings pitched. He had 1 start against the Mets last year. That came in August. He went 5 1/3, gave up 2 runs on 7 hits and 2 walks. The Marlins ended up winning that game by a final score of 3-2. But tonight, here's the lineup for the Mets going up against Belozzo. Francisco Lindor, of course, in his usual leadoff spot. He is 1 for 3 with an RBI. Juan Soto hitting second. He has not faced Belozzo in his career. Pete Alonso is 1 for 3. Brandon Nimmo hitting cleanup 1 for 3 with a double. Mark Vientos, who hopefully is starting to pick things up. He is 1 for 3. Tyrone Taylor, 0 for 2. Luis Angel Acuna hitting 8th in the lineup. And that's interesting because that means Brett Beatty is not starting today, which is fine by me because I've been saying it for a long time that Brett Beatty is not the answer at second base. So Luis Angel Acuna getting the start in place of the struggling Beatty, who has just 2 hits through his first 21 at-bats this year. After that, Hayden Sanger, so means to Luis Torrens, still unavailable with that right arm injury that he's been dealing with. This is now the third straight start for Sanger in place of Torrens. We know that Torrens came in pinch hit in the 8th inning on Saturday. He did not appear yesterday, but obviously this is becoming a little bit more serious of an issue for Torrens, who of course we know is only starting right now because Francisco Alvarez is out. So would be really, really bad for the Mets if they don't have Luis Torrens, and they have to go even deeper into their catching depth to try to find another guy or pick someone off the market. So Sanger in there rounding out the lineup at 9th. Of course, no career at-bats against Belozzo. What to watch for the lineup? The bottom of the order. This has been a huge issue. I talked about it just momentarily ago about Brett Beatty. He's had a really, really tough start to the season, and he's one of the main culprits for this next topic. Mets 6 through 9 hitters through these first 3 series have been horrific. 13 for 86. That's a combined 186 average over the first 9 games, including 24 strikeouts and just 3 RBIs during that time. Accounting for 8 of those strikeouts of the 24 has been Brett Beatty. So personally, really happy not to see him in the lineup. I've been saying it since spring training. Look, you can believe he had a great spring training, but we've seen this before. He's not a big league player. It's very clear. I'm not ready to completely give up on him, but I'm also not just handing him the reins over there at second base. I think we've seen far more out of Luis Angel Acuna. He's put up more competitive at-bats. obviously has the speed and is a tremendous defensive player. None of those things Brad Beatty can say for himself. So keys to the Mets lineup. What can the bottom of the order do for this team? Hopefully a little bit more without Brad Beatty in the lineup. And then overall, it's been a slow start for the team. There's no doubt about it, especially the bats. They need to get things going. One of the culprits as well is Juan Soto. Can Juan Soto finally kind of break out? He's been okay so far. He's done typical Juan Soto. He still gets on base. He gets walks. He's got a couple base knocks in this Toronto Blue Jays series. But just that one home run, the second game of the series against Houston, the second game of the season, that is. Otherwise, we've been waiting to really see that breakout for Juan Soto, the $765 million man. Will he get his first home run at Citi Field as a New York Met tonight or sometime during this series? Those are the things that I'll be watching out for. Let's head over to game 2 now. The pitching matchup. Clay Holmes makes his third start of the season, and he'll be going up against Connor Gillespie, who really shut down the Mets in that finale against the Marlins earlier last week. Let's start with Clay Holmes, though. His last start against the Marlins in that one, 4.2 innings pitched, 2 runs, just one of them earned. That was the game where Barquillos had his miscues to throw over Luis Torrens' head, or rather it was Hayden Sanger's head at home plate, among 2 other errors. 6 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts for Clay Holmes. Overall, though, for the year, Holmes has been pretty solid numbers-wise. Total of 9.1 innings pitched in 2 starts. He's given up 5 runs, just 3 of them earned, a 2.89 earned run average, and his opponent's batting average is 289, which is pretty high. But his BABIP, as in batting average on balls in play, so when a guy hits it into the field of play, is 379. That's nearly 100 points higher than his actual batting average against opponents, which just means he's maybe run into some bad luck and things have just kind of not been going Clay Holmes' way. So I've been saying it. I think Holmes has looked pretty good his first 2 starts. The walks have been what's killing him. It's obviously not helping that he hasn't got a lot of help from his defense, who have given him 2 unearned runs so far early in this season. But I do believe that Holmes has looked pretty solid so far. So we'll see if he can build on that in the game 2 start against the Marlins tomorrow on Tuesday night. Going over to Gillespie, this was a guy who I said before the Mets took on the Marlins in that game, and especially after they had just lost to Alcantara and they were staring down the barrel, potentially losing 2 out of 3 to Miami, a team that might lose 100 games this year. The Mets better beat up on Gillespie. And that exactly did not happen at all whatsoever. He had a solid start against the Mets. He's a non-prospect. It's only his 5th career start last week. He went 5 innings pitched, gave up just 1 run on 4 hits, and struck out 6 while issuing 0 walks. His 51 of his 73 pitches were strikes, and the Mets really just stood no chance against him. So everything I said about the Mets being there to just absolutely dominate him and get a convincing series win on last Thursday went out the window, and Gillespie looked great against the Mets. Of course, we know the Mets did pull it out. They did get that victory against him to take 2 out of 3, so we were happy to see that. But hopefully the Mets will be able to figure him out their second time facing him in less than a week. So we'll see how that all goes. They got to put together some better at-bats. This lineup so far has not been great. They've been scoring timely hits and doing enough to win these games, and the pitching has really been what's carrying them. But going up against a guy like Gillespie, who, again, I've said is not a prospect, not somebody with a high pedigree, the Mets should be able to figure him out a second time facing him within the last week. So hopefully that will be the case. And then we go to game 3. It is a pitching matchup of Tylor Megill versus Max Meyer. So Megill, first 2 starts of the season, 10.1 innings pitched, an 0.87 earned run average, just 5 hits and 4 walks over that time. Of course, we know he started on Friday against Toronto in the Met Citi Field home opener. He went 5 1/3 innings pitched of shutout ball, just 2 hits, 3 walks allowed, and his command, though, has still been an issue in that game through 48 strikes out of 82 pitches. So definitely something that we've always keyed in on with Tylor Megill. When he throws strikes and he commands the strike zone, good things happen. But when he doesn't and he starts giving out free passes, it can be an issue for him. So hopefully Megill will be able to figure that out. But overall, things have been really solid to begin the year 2 starts through for Tylor Megill. And going up against him is Max Meyer, who a former top prospect. He was the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 draft by the Marlins. He came up in 2022, but he missed all of 2023 with Tommy John surgery, and things have really not gone his way ever since then. Last year in 2024, he had a 5.98 ERA and 11 starts, and he's hoping to rebound here in 2025. He's made 2 starts so far this year, going 11.2 innings pitched, giving up 13 hits, 3 walks, and has a 3.09 ERA. And last year, he made his lone and only career start against the Mets. He went 4 innings pitched. He gave up 4 runs on 6 hits and 2 walks, though, including giving up home runs to both Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso. So those are the pitching matchups for the series against the Marlins this week. Of course, I told you the Mets are coming off the series sweep against the Blue Jays to open their home slate. That after winning 2 out of 3 against Miami down at Lone Depot Park. Bottom line about this series, I'm hoping that the Mets will take 2 out of 3 again. And a sweep would be great. I really do hope so. I think the Marlins may be a little bit better than what I and other fans have been giving them credit for so far. But the Mets are back at home now. They did not play too well against the Marlins, especially the offense, but they did still somehow pull 2 out of 3 out. I'm hoping that they do it again here at Citi Field and get 2 out of 3, but in convincing fashion. Look, it's one thing if they go out and they win 2 out of 3, but it's not like a very great performance from them, kind of like it was down in Miami. I'd love to see them get a sweep, but honestly, if they can win 2 out of these 3 games against the Marlins and do it with scoring 10 runs in one of the games and scoring 7 runs in one of the other games, then I'd be really happy and totally satisfied if it meant that one of the other games they just finally didn't get a great performance from one of their starting pitchers, because I need to see things kind of even out. I love how great the starting pitching has been. The bullpen has obviously been the top in all of Major League Baseball so far, but I really do want to see the bats finally emerge and do what we were expecting them to do on paper entering 2025. So bottom line for me, hopefully the Mets will get 2 out of 3. A sweep would be fantastic, but it's all about how they look in this series against the Marlins as they look to make it 5 in a row, coming off the sweep of the Jays and their final 2 out of 3 wins against the Marlins in the week right before that. So I want to hear from you guys. Let me know. What do you think about this upcoming series? How do you feel about the pitching matchups? Kodai Senga going out for his second time. Clay Holmes and Tyler McGill looking to add on to their resumes for 2025 in their 3rd starts of the season. Do you like the pitching matchups? How do you feel about the Mets lineup so far this year? Is Mark Vientos finally starting to figure things out? And should Brett Beatty continue to get starts at second base? Obviously, we know today he won't be, as it's Luis Angel Acuna in the lineup for the team to open this 3-game set with the Marlins. So let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like this video and to subscribe to the channel for all the latest Mets updates and coverage as we continue throughout the 2025 season. We'll have a post-game chat on this exact channel later on, so you can turn post notifications on so you don't miss that, and you can join in on it as well later this evening. That's it for all. Let's go Mets.